10, 9, ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome to the Alien Probe Podcast. In early June 1952, Project Bluebook was operating according to the operational plan that had been set up in January 1952. It had taken 6 months to put the plan into effect, and to a person who has never seen indoctrinated into the ways of the military, this may seem like a long time. But consult your nearest government worker, and you'll find that it was about par for the red tape course. This another entry into the report of unidentified flying objects by Edward J. Ruppelt. And joining me again is Dr. Bill.
Hello.
Bill.
Hey.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
It's good. Hey, I got a thunderstorm, it looks like, coming through, so you might hear some thunder.
Good.
Yeah.
That'd be great effect in the back.
Good
all
effects.
Your equipment going to survive?
Yeah, it'll be fine. It's just like we might lose power, we might lose internet, so who knows? We'll see what happens.
Okay, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and it's looks like it's here for the next hour, so perfect timing.
Awesome.
Perfect timing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So do we have anything exciting happen in the world of UFO this week? I know we had another that you had sent me and I didn't have a chance to watch it. It was the...
the Leto...
Yeah, there was a debunking they're like are they battling back and forth as to what's...
Yeah, it's basically that it's Michael West and Chris Leto, or sort of, Chris Leto is countering what Michael West is saying. It's the usual stuff, and I think that it's the gimbal video, which looks like a flying saucer, but Michael West and other people are saying that it's a jet exhaust, except it moves sideways, and nobody knows of a jet that can actually fly sideways or something. I don't know. It's basically they're arguing over definitions, and word definitions, I guess. I don't know what they're doing. Basically, the video is a credible UFO video provided by the military. The military doesn't know what it is, and Michael West and other debunkers are just arguing that it's something. They're trying to explain it. And then
it just seems like they're going battling back and forth, just trying to grab views.
Yeah, it's just, well, Chris Leto is actually, I think, is very, very good. I mean, the guy knows the equipment and he knows the planes, and so he's an expert on this stuff, and he's saying it's a legitimate. We don't know what it is.
Right.
So it's a UFO. For him, it's like a UFO. It's an unknown aircraft based on his analysis, which he goes into great depth. As distance and angles, and he knows, like I said, he knows the equipment. And he's like, I can't figure out what this is. It isn't anything I've seen. It isn't anything anyone else has seen. It's a definite unknown. And Michael West they're just arguing, lens flare and gimbal rotation seems to be a big deal. And it's like, okay, fine. I don't know.
What are they referring to when they say gimbal? Is it
gimbal? The camera, the targeting pod has a mechanism in the front so it can track. So it's like an eyeball basically on the front. And so the eyeball it's an eyeball, and the eyeball can look up and down and side to side. And it also has a mirror on the inside that can rotate. And the whole thing is to keep the visual image oriented for the pilot. But like an eyeball, I mean, I don't know what they're arguing. I don't understand. And I haven't seen a great explanation of sort of the gimbal rotation thing. So it's an eyeball. It can look up and down, left and right, and it can rotate to keep the orientation of the camera so the pilot can understand what he's looking at while he's flying. And then they're also
Now, it automatically tracks anything that, like, they're saying this is a space. Well,
it's an unknown.
We think it's a spacecraft.
Yeah, it's an unknown.
We think it's a spacecraft. We want it to be a spacecraft.
It's an unknown.
Automatic. Does it auto tracks in the that thing that squeezes it together as part of their targeting?
Yeah, it targets
as they paint. So the gimbal is this thing that rotates and helps track. Keep this thing in that site.
It's actually they actually have a lock on it.
And so it's able to keep, so it moves and stays locked on no matter what the orientation. Unless the aircraft turns all the way around, it will stay. Well,
not when it's like an eyeball. It's pointing forward, so it cannot turn backwards. And apparently, it has it. I don't know how far it can turn down, but it can rotate quite a bit, but it cannot turn backwards.
Okay.
So it's literally like an eyeball, but it's like those lizards with the eyes that stick out on the top of the heads that can look all around?
Yes.
It's close to that. So it's like up there and it can look left, right, up, down, but it can't look, backwards. And then they're talking about lens flare and it's just like it's actually reached the point of being tedious. I looked at the stuff. I'm not doing an in-depth analysis on what Leto is saying. I trust his math. And I would just say it's an unknown. It's not a known aircraft. You can argue to death about lens flare, and it could be just an engine exhaust, but he's done a calculation of the size, and it's awful. It's 20, 30 feet across. It's moving sideways. It's just there's a lot about it that it's an unknown. You don't know what it is. The military doesn't know what it is. The people that are spending hours arguing about it don't know where it is. They're wasting our time. They're wasting their time. It's an unknown. Move on.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get
30 feet across. Or is that what they're determining?
That's what Chris Leto think it is. He's about 30 feet. 22 feet to a little more, a little more, 25, something like that. So 30, approximately less than 30, between 20 and 30 feet.
Not a great deal of size, but like a boat, I kind of equate these things to a boat. You've been on a 30-foot boat. I guess it could be the sports model. It would be the sports model of a spacecraft. Sports model.
Yeah, he says, what did he say? He said that a fighter was 60 feet or 80 feet. I can't remember which. So a jet fighter is 60 to 80 feet long. So, yeah. Yeah, that was exciting. And then did you see the news report about two aircraft seeing green fireballs over Canada?
I did not see the new fireball.
Yeah, I just saw that. It was July 30th. I just saw a news thing on it because I did a quick search. A military jet and a civilian jet both saw a bright green object flying through clouds. So it sounds like green fireball. So anyway.
We never did determine, even on the fireball episode, of what St. Elmo's fire, or of course that's kind of tiny compared to what everyone's seeing. The green fireballs are kind of large.
Well, it's like La Paz, who was the guy that investigated that, who was a meteorite specialist. He never figured out what it is. Oh, let me put
a lot of unknown out there.
Yeah,
a lot of unknown.
I'm gonna put my glasses on here.
Yeah, something that I have to do each time that I'm reading here.
I could read a lot of this stuff, but it's just like I was looking at this one thing. I go, "That's awful tiny print." So, and you watched the new UFO episode.
I watched the one the one that's on YouTube with
Abrams.
Well, there's the other one we're going to talk about, but definitely.
There was the Netflix one. I watched two of them, and I don't think I can continue.
No, I jumped to the channels, but when you gave me channel 7, they call it.
Oh yeah, that was the I forgot about that. That was the BBC news, not BBC, Channel 7 Australia News. The guy spent like a year researching it and doing stuff. That was actually really good.
Yeah, the guy that did the narration, the English gentleman, is also doing a new Ancient Aliens episode on history. I don't know if you've seen that yet.
No, is that
But
just?
they're 2021. They're actually June, July. They're recent. I was surprised because I love Ancient Aliens.
Oh, I'll check that out.
At some point, we're gonna go way back.
Yeah,
and, well, we were not going to be back there, but actually trying to explore what has popped up. You always see those ancient illustrations of people in flight and little weird ships and stars and and then helmets and then the sculptures that look like airplanes. I enjoy that too. That's why I go listen to that. But yeah, back to the Channel 7. I say Channel 7. I assume that's a BBC or
no, it's Australia. Channel 7 Australia. I don't think they have BBC there.
The most fascinating, like I texted you, there was 2 things on there that were pretty fascinating. One was the school kids. Yeah. There was a spacecraft that landed in Australia. And I'll say that they all did. Then they gathered them together later in life as adults, older adults. And the gentleman asked them to write or draw the ships, spacecraft, and they all drew pretty much the same exact spacecraft that they saw at that time. So
that was fun.
I've seen that before, and you see we watch so much.
Well, there was
forget about some of these.
They did that with those kids at the school. Was it South Africa? Had a similar experience, and they had them. That was in the Phenomenon documentary, and they had them all. They all had them all draw pictures again too. So that was a similar sort of episode or experience for these kids.
This is one of those things where then the thing takes off, of course, but this is one of those things where this makes you want to believe for sure. Because we could go into why haven't we been able to put our hands on you and I, obviously, but if they're crashing, they're picking up these things so fast and getting everybody's video so quickly so it can't be put up. Is the video going up and the government able to go into YouTube and Facebook?
I don't think they have to. I don't think they have to because it's just because the stigma assigned to UFOs are just going to believe it or not, who cares?
But they haven't gotten one where people are walking up. We've seen the Air Force Base sighting where the Air Force guy goes into the forest and he sees the UFO, and it's actually got writing on it, and it's binary.
Was that the
010110 whatever?
Was that the UK one?
Yeah, exactly.
Where they have
it was U.S. Air Force Base, but in the UK.
Yeah, that's I can't remember the name
of
it.
I can't remember.
Ramsfield?
Something
like that.
And, so the guy walks up, he sees all this, puts his hand on it. This was a believable sighting as well. I don't know what benefit these guys could have by making this up, honestly. You just want notoriety. Back then this was later though, I think the 60s. Back then you're labeled a nut. Let's face it.
I think it still happens. It's so we talked about, there was the everybody's labeled you're a nut if you look at UFOs, and that's been the stigma since the 50s, early 50s. And now with the news that's come out, they're saying, well, a lot of reporters think, well, this stuff is acceptable and stuff, but the Washington Post, which has actually had some good interviews. They had a good interview with a video interview with Elizondo, Louis Elizondo, and they also had an interview with a couple people.
I like his new beard.
The little white beard.
Yeah.
And the
looking good, Louis. Looking good.
He's getting older.
I know you're listening.
Yeah. And then they also had one with, I don't know if he was the director and a historian that worked on the latest UFO documentary that J.J. Abrams worked on.
Yes, that was awesome.
Yeah, the first one. The reviews haven't been very good by the people that have seen it.
And they don't know anything.
Yeah, I'm not sure. They're saying I was looking at the reviews on a couple sites, and they were saying these are people. This isn't professional reviewers, which they get paid to say good things.
There it is. That thunder?
Yeah, that's this.
All right. I love Florida.
I don't know how far away it is. It's not that far. I'm not seeing flashes, so I
this
might.
Would be a good effect for the show.
Yeah, maybe I won't lose.
Unless everything goes dead.
And that happens. That
you
happens.
Don't have generator backup there, sir? I'm a little disappointed.
Nope.
As a bit of a techie that you are, I thought that maybe.
No.
You got solar, I know, because you're up there replacing panels on your own. You did something that I would never do.
Well, I worked with
my own solar panels.
Well, I worked with a contractor, and we replaced them because the old ones went out. And I have to say, Panasonic really came through on shipping us all new sets of panels at no charge.
Way to go.
Yeah, no charge.
Way to go.
Yeah, Panasonic. But Panasonic doesn't do solar panels anymore.
No,
but
how
they were
working now. Everything functions.
Oh, they're fine. They're fine. This climate's really hard on solar panels. They're not really, and I think they're not rated for much more than 140 degrees, and the roofs here at least get that. So the panels don't. They're supposed to last 20 years. Our last set lasted, I don't know, maybe 10 or so. But Panasonic had a 20-year guarantee, and they just shipped us a whole new set for nothing.
There's a big deal now in the state of California, which probably will shock you, that there's a big deal about the storage batteries from those panels and the installation. They want them to have my wife works, obviously, for the state.
Yeah.
They want them to have a separate entity they're working on. I don't know if there's legislation, but they're talking about it. Having a separate contractor deal with the storage batteries because they're so freaking dangerous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the lithium-ion batteries, yeah.
How big is the unit that stores that for you?
We don't have batteries on ours. So you just have a converter, and then you have the panels.
Okay. So you don't have that storage thing?
No, we don't have batteries.
Pull that?
Yeah, that's newer technology, and that's... I know we looked into that, but that was just a little over the top. I'm not sure that solar panels are really ready for prime time. After my experience, yeah. I mean, the cost has really come down, but I don't know. The previous panels, basically were having serious problems after 10 years because of the climate. It's a tough climate. Yeah. So I don't know where the technology is, and these things, my personal opinion, these things should have a 50-year lifespan. And right now you're looking at 10 years or less in a severe climate. Now, coastal California, where it's coastal California, these things may last 50 years, but you put them out where you are, they're going to have a 10-year lifespan. Your roof.
Well, the thing is, with where we are, we have SMUD. We're in the Sacramento area.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a secret. We have SMUD, and then outside that Sacramento utility district, and then outside of us is good old PG&E.
SMUD's, is it a co-op?
Yeah.
So you got
the energy is pretty. I work with guys that do pool. Solar, solar where the water just goes through the tubes.
That's the guy that did the solar panels. He's a pool guy, solar pool guy. But he used to do this. So
and they will do. I forget what they call it. They have a name for it. But they also do. They'll put those in, and then they'll also put on the solar for the electricity
for the pumps.
And there's a lot of people that. There's a lot of companies out there that are bad, that are, and they're selling this thing as it's you reduce, and it does, I don't know, it used to be able to put power back on the grid, And now I
We
don't
do
know
that.
if they do that anymore.
We do that.
So you don't have any. So you have no electricity bill.
No, it's basically the same every month. It offsets it by about half. So, because we didn't get a big array because it was real expensive when we put it in, the prices have come way down.
Oh, for electricity?
For the solar panels and the converters.
For the panels themselves, yeah.
So when we bought it, the panels cost as much as the converter or inverter. And when that inverter went out, so we had to have someone come in and replace the inverter. The original inverter was $10,000.
Oh my God.
And then the panels were like $10,000. And then when I had the inverter replaced, it was $1,500. So,
wow.
So the prices came way down. Yeah. Now we have a German inverter, which will probably last 100 years. And before we had, I don't know, Japanese inverter that didn't even last 10 years. But yeah, it's the stuff is, the prices have come way down. Most panels are made in China now. So I don't know. If they need to be rated for a harsher climate. Right now, you said it was going to be 105 in Sacramento. Your roof is going to be 150 degrees or more, 160. Yeah. And these panels aren't designed to operate over 140 degrees. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to have panels if you're going to be, they're not designed to operate in harsh climates. They're designed to work, but they can work in space and on the moon, right?
Right.
So I don't know what they're doing with the ones that we buy, and hopefully they've gotten better. But we'll see. I'm not sure they're ready to prime time. Elon Musk's solar panel roof company, I don't know what's going on with that.
He's got his own solar panel company?
Yeah, it was bundled into SpaceX. They had a lawsuit over it. His brother was involved in it, and not SpaceX, Tesla. He got it brought into Tesla. Tesla bought it. It's a good idea. I don't know where they haven't been moving forward very fast with it. But, that's Musk. I mean, he throws stuff at the wall if it sticks and makes, a great business. It does. If it doesn't, it goes away.
Yeah, I watched the first episode of his, I didn't quite even get through the first episode of his SpaceX tour.
Yeah, it's good.
But I'm looking forward to seeing all that. But I just want to mention the slice on his neck. Did you rewatch it?
No, I didn't see the slice on his neck. It's where they plug.
There's a hole. It looks like somebody tried to cut his throat. If you look at, and I got all my TVs are UHD.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell happened to his neck? And he was probably in doing something and like, hey, look, Elon, don't try to cut the.
Yeah.
Don't try to cut the sheet metal yourself, Elon. You're going to slice your neck. And it's. Don't try to be so hands-on, Elon.
I told you that's where they plug the cord in.
Yeah, he's an android.
Yeah,
Have you ever talked to? Is he? He's got a weird cadence to his speech. Is he?
He's South African. That's where he grew up.
Okay, I was wondering where he was. I didn't really know where he was from. That's interesting. God, he is an awesome dude, though.
Yeah, he is. He's definitely a mover and shaker. He's like the modern Steve Jobs. Yeah, he was grew up in South Africa. When he turned 18, he immigrated to Canada to go to university, and then he did university there. And then he went to, he got admitted to the physics program at Stanford as a matriculated student. But then I think it was his brother was there involved in a business startup or something. And then instead of starting school, he got involved in the business, and that eventually led to PayPal. And then PayPal led to, no, Musk was involved in PayPal, I believe.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. And
that's amazing.
Well, his superpower, I read an old biography of him, which is outdated, which I wish I'd read 10 years ago. His superpower is able to navigate regulatory bureaucracies. He's also very smart, technically. But that he learned to navigate the banking bureaucracies and get online banking going, like with PayPal.
Yeah. And
then he came into Tesla and applied that to sort of the building electric cars, because one of the big inhibitions to building anything in the United States is regulatory hurdles. So he had car companies. Of course, the laws are written to protect the big car companies. But so came in, and his superpower is to figure out how to navigate, or he has people that have worked for him and followed him to these different companies, know how to navigate these regulatory hurdles to get this stuff to work. So, yeah, he's and SpaceX is
navigate all of them because he didn't. California just gave up and left.
Well, SpaceX is the same thing. It's like you got to you want to build space. You know who builds spaceships? Countries build spaceships.
Yeah.
So he figured out how to navigate the regulatory bureaucracy to get his online banking company going. Figured out how to do it to get his car company going, and he figured out how to do it to get his rocket company going. So he's got the technical smarts for like the math and the physics. If you watch the interview, he knows the systems that they're putting together. He may not be able to design them, but he knows what's going on at SpaceX.
Well, yeah, he's phenomenally intelligent.
Yeah. So it's what CEO can walk around the plant basically of his company and know everything that's going on? So it's like none. I can tell you that route, none. So
that's why we hire people to do that.
Yeah. I don't know. I just it's anyway. So yeah, the UFO. You watched the UFO Abrams. I watched the first episode. I don't have Showtime, so I don't know.
Well, it's weird. They put out episode 1 and 4.
Yeah, that was
weird.
So
Deb says, "Well, do you want to watch 4?" And I go, "No, I want to watch it in order."
Yeah.
So I guess tomorrow they're dropping number 2. Deb needs to keep reminding me. I said, "Is it out yet?" And she says, "No, it's. I thought it was the 11th." And she says, "No, it's dropping on the 15th." Luckily, I have a person to keep track of these things.
Yes, so, good, excellent.
A mind, I should say. They have a mind to keep track of these things. So we're looking forward to it. She watched it too, and Deb doesn't really become too much engaged in these things. In this episode, she actually was like, "Whoa,
that was good."
But it's all the things you and I have. It's interesting because we're just regurgitating. Doesn't it seem like?
Yeah.
All these things you and I are. I mean, maybe not the average person knows, or the average person doesn't know what we know, but or if discussed to this length, that's why we're here. Yep. But it's weird because it's everything we see Chop on there, and you see all our heroes.
Yep.
Ruppelt. And
no McDonald though.
Yeah. They
had McDonald on the Australian show though, because he had gone to Australia.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was in the James McDonald, who was like the parallel for a different organization to Hynek.
Yeah.
So the Abrams thing had Hynek and Ruppelt, but no James McDonald. But the Australian one had James McDonald because he went there for a meeting, and that school teacher with the kids. He was saying, yes, this guy from the president of the United States came and interviewed me. He was like, no, he wasn't from the president of the United States. Yeah. McDonald was there for a meeting, and in his spare time, he would investigate UFO sightings. And that's when he went and talked to him. And the press in Australia was just like, thought he was, since he was there, he had government money to do research. Government money paid for him to go there to present a paper at a meeting. And so the press was going, oh, the U.S. government has paid him to come investigate UFOs. No, he's doing that on his own. But he actually got in trouble when he returned to the United States because of that. Because they were saying, are you using... They actually investigated him. Had the... what do they call it? I want to say the Surgeon General. They call him the... Anyway,
Inspector General.
Inspector General. They had an Inspector General look into his budget to make sure that he didn't spend any money on the UFO stuff. So he got some heat from that. But anyway, they're covering the whole bases.
J.J. Abrams does. I mean, I love J.J. Abrams, all of his stuff. So I'm sure the coverage, although familiar, will at least be conveyed in a way that, is entertaining.
It was a lot more watchable than the Netflix one.
Oh my God.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Netflix one's stocked with a shitty audio.
Yeah.
Or the video.
Oh.
And
apparently
illustrations.
The reviews say that they're doing some crappy CGI in this, but I don't know if people are mixing this one up with the other one.
I'm guessing they are.
Yeah.
We're not very bright.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But, so shall we, is that enough for the up to date?
We managed to do that. Oh, did you see the, so I don't know a lot about cattle mutilations. But
why not? You're a
scientist. I didn't think it was anything. But it was interesting to look at the Australian Channel 7 documentary where they showed that guy's cow, the pictures that he had of his cow that had been mutilated in the Australian wilderness.
What does that?
I don't know. And he was saying there was a bunch of cows that that had happened to. And I also noticed that rancher, when he was driving his little four-wheel buggy around, he did have a scoped rifle on a rack behind him. So
you have to.
Yeah, out there.
Sidearm.
Yeah.
Sidearm also. Well, you're in the look where you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stuff there that'll kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, spiders and snakes.
Hungry things. Yeah.
Yeah, things that, your food.
Yeah. It's like going to Africa.
You're no longer at the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
You're just might even be maybe a little lower.
Well, we've never been the top of the food chain. The only time we're in the top of the food chain is in sufficient numbers to overpower anything else.
Yeah.
So we are talking about the big flap.
The big flap, and the big flap, as it's described by Ruppelt, could be anything from, an surprise inspection, shakeup in military management or command, or a girl that's sufficiently stacked walking into a bar.
Is that what he said? That's what he said in the book. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what a flap. And it's funny because that's an old school term that, as I read into this, it's like, my dad used to use that term. I mean, it sounded familiar, but I just it's not something you hear used anymore. Usually causing a big flap. Yeah, it's no longer a term used.
Yeah.
But because this is from 1951.
50. The 50,
yeah,
51,
where
52. 51, 52. Yeah.
Where we are in the book at the moment. And, I'm looking at this book going, okay, we're not even half. Yeah, plus three chapters. Then
yes, we are halfway. I also was looking at the Project Grudge reports that I picked up from NICAP, found online that NICAP had published, and so I was just looking at, and these are the official reports of Project Grudge. I got January, February, March, and then they skipped. This is for 1952. March, April, and then April, May. Oh, it keeps going. Oh, what am I looking at? I don't know. I think maybe I want to look at 50. No, this is right. So, but there's a gap in here because in the reports, because they were so busy at this during the big flap that they didn't have time to do their monthly reports because they were investigating so many UFO sightings.
Now on the big flap. Now that's Project Bluebook, right? We've rolled
Project Bluebook
by now,
and the
Grudge is officially winded down, correct?
Yeah, and it's so in these reports. So I have these are Air Technical Intelligence Center, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Project
Where all the
Grudge.
aliens and spacecraft are, by the way.
Yes, these are status reports that were originally confidential. They've been unclassified by Robert J. Friend, Major, who was in September 9th, 1960. He was a guy that was also in charge of Project Bluebook after Ruppelt. I guess there was several of them. And then Quentin Nia apparently took over at some point. But Friend was also running Project Bluebook. He unclassified these reports in 1960. So this actually gives these. Is this one written by Ruppelt? No.
Is that the Grudge report you're looking at?
Yeah. This one looks like it's written by.
Well, he kind of came on at the end. He was there for Grudge, but
yeah, this is. Oh, these stamps aren't. I don't know who wrote this one. There's no signature on it.
Yeah, he came on board. He had a desk during Grudge, and he was he was helping another. I don't know if he's a lieutenant. That's kind of low. A major, maybe. Captain, I think. Well, he was a captain. So
Ruppelt.
Yeah, Ruppelt was a captain.
Yeah.
In fact,
here it is.
as
No, this is weird.
Go ahead.
Okay, no, go ahead.
Well, he took over when he was taking over, and they mentioned.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, I'm just looking.
He was a captain, and they were like, "Hey, you have to be at least a major." And finally, they just gave up. And so I thought they were going to promote him. I thought, well, they'll promote him, but I don't think they did. They just let him do it at his current rank. Okay.
This is interesting because the Project Grudge report for January 1952, number 3. There's no author on this report when it was classified, and then Project Grudge report number 4, February 1952. I can't read the name. It has a different author, Dare Arnold. I can't remember. I can't read that. But when you get to status report, Project Bluebook report number 5, says formerly Project Grudge, 31 March 1952. You now have Ruppelt as the author.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not Grudge anymore, though.
It's now Project Bluebook, March 31, 1952. So this is the end of the month report, and Ruppelt is now fully in charge of Bluebook, and he, what does he say here? He's got some good stuff.
Well, he had 4 officers, 2 airmen, and 2 civilians as his personal staff, and there were 3 scientists employed. And Project Bear was the other project. It was kind of their research and.
Yeah, he talks about that. That was Batil, which they have contract scientists with. I'm trying to look at this.
Doing the Project Bear thing was, gives them some background information on these sightings.
Yeah, and he says he's talking about visits by some. He mentioned before that he had scientists visiting that he couldn't talk about. Here he mentions one guy, is Dr. Joseph Kaplan, was the Air Force Scientific Advisory Board visited, and he suggested spectrum analysis on the craft they were seeing, because then you could tell easily from the spectrum whether or not it was a fighter jet.
Right.
So that's actually, Hynek mentioned that in his book about spectrum analysis. I think that's a great idea, because it's like you could look at a fighter jet exhaust is going to have a specific spectrum. So like we were talking about the gimbal argument, where people are going,
right,
whatever they're arguing about, I mean, it's an unknown. We don't know what it is. A spectrum analysis of that would tell you would tell you if that was an exhaust plume. And the analysis would give you the, if it's jet exhaust or something else.
Why don't we have the ability to at least do that?
I have no idea. I mean, I noticed it when I was reading the Hynek book that he talked about spectrum analysis. Now, astrophysicists do this. This is how they look at stars and everything in space. Spectrum analysis and building these instruments to analyze light is all they do. So it's like the technology's out there to do some real. Maybe they're doing this with the Galileo project at Harvard with these cameras. I'm actually going to look into.
You love the Galileo project, don't you? You can completely embrace this project.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and Ruppelt talks about this stuff in his reports. So,
do you think Galileo's going to give us the breakthrough?
That's hard to say. I mean, it's been 70 years and there's been no breakthrough. I don't know why they haven't been doing spectrographic analysis. But here's another thing in this report from Project Bluebook number 5, end of March. Remember in the Hynek letter that we talked about previously, where people said one of the criticisms was none of these observatories, astronomical observatories, have seen UFOs, and that was a criticism of it, of why they didn't exist.
Well, they're looking at stuff. They're looking at stuff way the hell out there. They're not looking at our.
Well, he said,
atmosphere.
Who's he talking to? He says,
you're not going to see any. Well, unless they're looking. I mean, if you're thinking about science fiction, about looking through that, observatory, and it's like, holy crap, there's a spaceship.
Yeah. Well, he was talking with the Beacon Hill Group, Air Force Technical Advisors, and they said the question of ability of large astronomical observatories, they said that the chance of observing an object at random was low, and that's what I'm talking about, Project Galileo. They need to know where to put this stuff to actually get information. And he says, Ruppelt's report says this was very interesting because some people have had the theory that no unusual objects could exist because they would have been detected by observatories. Okay.
Right. That's bullshit.
Yep. I mean, it's too, I think the field of view is too narrow, and the...
Whoever said that was ridiculous. Oh my God.
It's the debunkers. It's the debunkers. Because they're.
Well, if you think they don't, I mean, why throw that out there? Yeah, it's the thing. Like, their vision is too broad for. I mean, I don't want to say too broad. They're not going to see anything specific.
Yeah.
They're looking at solar systems and.
Well, it's very
black
narrow
holes, and they're not going to, even if a ship flew right in front of that at however thousands or 1,500 miles an hour, even whatever, they wouldn't even see. It would be a flash through that. Oh, hey, is that a UFO? And then they have to start tracking it, and from light years, I don't know how far out they can see.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, it's all spectrum analysis, and then the big film layering, image capture, where you take 1,000 images and you compile them to get a decent image and stuff. I don't know much about it, but yeah, it was interesting that they pointed that out. But that was, I mean, this was a secret. This was, I guess, the first they were confidential. These reports confidential, and number 4 is confidential, and then number 4 was secret. They upgraded the classification status on these reports from confidential to secret once Ruppelt was in charge. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Why would they upgrade them like that?
That is interesting.
Yeah. They don't need an upgrade. Wow. So he said that guy came, blah, blah, blah. That was just, I noticed that. And then he talks about, I haven't reached the point where they've developed the questionnaire. Right. You have a copy of it in that other book by Tacker. This questionnaire, and they say there's psychological traps in there. I want to go through there and see if I can figure out what the psychological trap questions are. 8 pages, 68 questions, which were booby-trapped in a couple of places to give us a cross-check on the reliability of the reporter as an observer. So I don't know how you're doing that. So we'll find out how reliable we are as observers if we can figure out what the trap is. But he also talks about, so here, status report, Project Bluebook number 6, formerly Project Grudge, 30 April for the end of April. He says that Look magazine came in to do interviews. So Look magazines are sort of interesting because one was an article which had Menzel, who was the head of the astronomy department at Harvard, who in 1950 immediately wrote a debunking book on UFOs and always called them mirages or something like that, atmospheric distortions and stuff like that. And which is interesting. He's also Menzel is also supposedly part of the Majestic 12.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. So, I mean, it's like, I don't know if the Majestic 12 is a real thing, but it's interesting that, well, people would put him on that list. So if people were making it up, they would put him on that list. And then he talks about what's that? I'm hearing noises. Squeaking.
No,
Is that,
it's not me.
It's not you?
Your chair.
It's my chair?
That's not me.
I think that's my chair. Okay.
Did you get a new chair?
No, it's the same chair. It's my old office chair. It's a nice chair. It makes noise though. Life magazine, which we can talk about. I sent you the link, but I just sent you the link just a little bit ago, so you haven't had a chance to look at that. But that's a really good article.
You broke out there, did you have a lightning strike because you broke out there?
No. How is it now? Is it better?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Yeah, we're not having any lightning right now, but if it's in the distance, it can cause trouble. Because there was one time we were doing it, and we were both breaking up because of the lightning strikes. So the Life magazine, which I sent you a copy of it, is pretty interesting. And but Ruppelt talks about in Blue Book report number 6, he talks about the reaction to the Life magazine article. Says approximately 350 daily newspapers in all parts of the United States carried some mention of the article and some mention of the fact that the Air Force was interested in receiving such reports. So that's all I'm going to do for the Grudge reports right now. But this Life magazine has some interesting features in it. I don't know if you want to talk about it a little bit or you want to look at it?
Ahead.
Talk about it?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
So it's Life magazine from April 7th, 1952 with Marilyn Monroe on the cover. It's an awesome photo. He said, last week, the U.S. Air Force made known to Life the following facts. As a result of continuing flying saucer reports, the Air Force maintains constant intelligence investigations and study of unidentified aerial objects. 2, a policy of positive action has been adopted to find out as soon as possible what is responsible for observations that have been made. Still hasn't found out. Military aircraft are alerted to attempt interception. Radar and photographic equipment will be used in an attempt to obtain factual data.
Oh, wow.
That didn't really happen. I mean, they talked about this equipment, and as we saw when you get a little farther in this stuff, they never built it. It never happened. The diffraction grading to get spectrographic analysis on the things, that didn't happen. The special cameras didn't happen. It's like, I don't know. All operational units of the Air Force have been alerted to report details of any sightings. This was interesting too. This was great in here. They was it in here? It was in here. They said in here, they go Project Zone. They definitely, I figured this out from my reading, but in this article it says the project set up to investigate the saucers, Project Sign, known to the press as Project Saucer. So that's definitely.
Remember we were kind of going back.
Yeah.
Way in the beginning. And
that was reading the Kehoe book and then seeing the other documents and stuff. I was like, oh well, Project Sign is Project Saucer, but this
Kehoe book, Kehoe kind of clarified that.
Okay.
When we went through that book.
Yeah, this definitely nails it though, which was nice to see. Which didn't mean anything because we figured it out anyway. First time since Project Saucer was changed to a special type Project Standard Intelligence function in December 1949. Okay. I guess, the reason as yet There's no reason as yet to believe that any of the aerial phenomena commonly described as flying saucers are caused by a foreign power or constitute a clear and present danger to the U.S. or its citizens. That sounds familiar. Excuse me. It says, out of this exhaustive inquiry, these propositions seem firmly shaped by the evidence. 1. Disk, cylinders, and similar objects of geometrical form, luminous quality, and solid nature for several years have been and may be now actually present in the atmosphere of Earth. 2. Globes of green fire, also of a brightness more intense than the full moons, have frequently passed through the skies. And apparently someone in a couple planes in Canada just saw something green. 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. 3. These objects cannot be explained by present science as natural phenomena, but solely as artificial devices created and operated by a high intelligence. This is Life magazine, 1952. And 4. Finally, no power plant known or projected on Earth could account for the performance of these devices. And then they go into a review. And they talk about 10 cases. You can read this over the next week. We can come back to it.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things in here is they talk about the Lubbock lights, some good incidents, green fireballs. But he talks about the civilian saucer investigation, which is CSI, which is based out of LA. And they got a picture here, and they go, CSI includes Dr. Walter Riedel, who was chief designer at German rocket laboratory at Peenemünde. And I looked
V2?
V2.
V2.
He's a rocket engine guy. And he worked at, so I go into the Wikipedia article. They don't even mention that. They just say he worked in England the whole time. And then, but he was definitely a paperclip scientist. He was brought to the United States to work. He worked at North American Aviation Incorporated. And what's interesting is this guy in 1968 went on a visit in East Germany and died.
What? He died?
He died, supposedly. Yeah. East Germany.
Seriously?
Well, I have a feeling that he didn't really die. It's like,
really?
It's like one of those things that this is the peak Cold War stuff. It's like, it's one of these things. I bet you he went to East Germany to visit family or whatever. Or even to, what do they call it? Not immigrate. They used to call it defect. Defect. So, or I think he was probably an involuntary defection. So it's
did he work with us? He didn't work. He was paperclip. So was he just visiting and then
he probably, I have a feeling maybe he just went over to visit family because, Germany was cut in half and families were separated. So maybe he had, relatives that he wanted to see. And in 1968, but I wouldn't put it past the KGB to say, hey, we have this American or British. I don't know what he was doing. I don't know what to believe with his Wikipedia article. But he definitely was a paperclip scientist who was brought to the United States to work on rocket programs. And I could easily see the KGB going, hey, buddy, how do you feel about coming to work for the Soviet Union? And he goes, no. And they go, you have no choice. Just find someone about the right age who looks like him, and hey,
send him back.
Heart attack him.
To the U.S. Yeah, this is him.
No, they just heart attack him and send the body back. It's like, here, oh, sorry, or whatever. Yeah.
Suicidal. I couldn't take it anymore.
So now I have a feeling that he didn't actually die in East Berlin. He was probably co-opted into the Soviet rocket program. There was one of their chief scientists died around that time, so I wouldn't be surprised. Or he might have defected and said, just tell him I had a heart attack. But that's an interesting observation from this Life article. But so anyway, some really cool, interesting stuff, especially when you tie in the Cold War into it.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah.
We're going to have to get up to, we get out of the 50s first would be good.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I did an inventory of my books and started putting a bibliography together. I can spend a long time in the 50s.
Are you going to go to the Dewey Decimal System?
Yeah. I arranged them chronologically. I arranged them in order of publication.
Oh, yeah. You can keep them that way?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I'm doing a list too, so I mean the books can get all mixed up, but I have a list that'll have them in order. So, and that should be pretty interesting.
So the assignment, what you had me order, I didn't look at.
Oh, that was just those were.
What is that?
That was, I think, UFO investigator report from the CUFOS. The J. Allen Hynek Center for UFO Studies. It was just a couple of their newsletters. But one of them looked real interesting because it had, apparently they spent a bunch of time investigating Roswell. And that article, I don't know what's in the article. I just happened to see it on eBay. And I saw you could read some of the page on eBay. Apparently, they sent like people out to the Roswell site to explore it, basically to do archaeology on the site and look for stuff. And I guess CUFOS, they mentioned that they interviewed like 120 people. Apparently, they did an in-depth study on it. So I don't know what's going on with Roswell, whether things are true or not. I've been reading this book by Corso, Philip J. Corso, and I don't know. I think there's a lot of noise and not a lot of signal in that book. This is the guy that said he fed a lot of the Roswell technology into the Army R&D program. But it's like, so far, I'm not done with the book, but so far he has said he brought some night vision stuff to the right people to look at and incorporate in their research. And then he talks about computers and silicon chips, but then basically it's just a chapter on the history of the computer. And he says, in 1947, somebody must have got a chip and gave it to the people, gave it to Bell Labs or something, 1947. He didn't give them anything. So I'm like, okay, come on. And then he has a chapter on the Army apparently designed a military moon base. And they got that as an appendix. And I go, yeah, that's interesting, but that's not Roswell. That's not space alien stuff.
Yeah.
But he's saying, it's the moon base to, have a fortress, again, anti-alien fortress, or to, outpost to prevent the Russians from claiming the moon. And then he's talking about lasers, but I think it's the same sort of thing. He's giving a history of the laser, but he's not saying we had a working laser that we gave to the scientists to back engineer. What do they call it? They call it reverse engineer. Reverse engineer. Yeah. And so far, I don't know. I mean, he's not providing any proof or evidence other than sort of a story. But then so much of this stuff is just a story anyway.
No, they were never able to find it. They studied archaeologically, I guess you could say. They not get any. Because, I guess we have to read it.
Yeah. That's why I said grab it. I mean, take a look at it.
Look at it.
Yeah, take a look at it. If it looks interesting, send me a copy.
I'll definitely check it out.
But yeah, it's some good stuff. What else was there? Oh, there was there was a memo. Remember that UFO CIA documents? I don't have it here. I can remember though. That German scientist Ruppelt was actually mentioned in one of those CIA documents, and the last note in the CIA memo says that an aeronautical society that North American Aeronautical Society or something that Ruppelt belonged to had discreetly gone to Dr. Walter Ruppelt and said he should disengage from the civilian saucer investigations. That's in the CIA memo. I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So, Other than that, there was something else, but I don't remember because I'm bouncing around. So about you, the Roswell thing. So I don't know. You know more about Roswell than I do. So do you believe Roswell?
I would like to believe. I don't. There's been a lot of. I mean, that could be a whole chapter on Roswell.
Yeah,
the guy brought back the parts to his house and showed his kid.
Yeah, I've seen that stuff, and it's compelling.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. They brought back. I mean, they brought the aliens back to the air base, and then they walked where the spacecraft crashed. It left a lot of debris, and they walk. You know how you'll walk, and we've both done this.
Yeah. Police the area.
Police the area. You're not shoulder to shoulder, but you put your arms out.
Yeah.
Your right neck. And so they scoured that area, but they could have missed something. Because,
that's why this investigation I thought was interesting when I saw this report, because it's like, well, let's see what they found. So maybe there'll be something in there. I'm hoping there's something interesting in there.
I'd love to go in there with a metal detector.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. You never know. You might.
I actually have a feeling that a lot of people have done that over the years.
Yeah, I'm sure they've gotten it, but it's on the French, right? It's not on Air Force property, the big crash.
Yeah.
So I mean, they probably. I would have people pay me to go in there and do that. Yeah, go ahead.
But then the question is pinning down the exact site. So I'm sure many of the witnesses that were involved can have done that. But my concern is there's always the misinformation. So maybe there's people could be like misinformation that make people look in another site. It's a big country, big space out there.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah. So next time is the Washington merry-go-round, which will be cool because Ruppelt gets a bit of a cold shoulder when he tries to investigate in D.C. The sightings.
Awesome. Well, we'll delve into that on the next episode.
Yep.
We're about ready to wrap up.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to this latest episode of the Alien Probe Podcast. Questions, comments, or requests to the Alien Probe Podcast at gmail.com. This is on Facebook at alienprobe.net. See us on YouTube, and thank you. We have over 25,000 views on YouTube. Of course, we're not in video right now. We plan to be in the future, but you can catch us on YouTube. Twitter at Alien Probe Pod. Thank you to our senior producer, Robert Anthony, and thanks again, Bill, for joining.
Okay.
See you next time.
See ya.